Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm T with Teresa H Creates, and today we're going to make a journal. So in a recent video, I did a craft room tour and I showed off this basket of goodies that I had on a shelf. And so what I've done here is I have collected handmade cards, tags, ATCs, made by my loving family, my great aunt, my grandmother, my aunts, my children, and I really wanted to do something more than keep them in this basket. Plus it's getting really full. So I had mentioned that I might put them in a larger basket out in my space. And it was recommended by someone watching that I put them in an album. And hello, I make junk journals. So let's make a journal. And I am going to use these cards as pages and also to make all of the ephemera for this journal. So to get started, I have selected just a box that I've had sitting around for a little while. I use this Pantene box. I kept it because I like this cutout right here. So I don't know how this is going to work for us in particular today, but we're going to go with it. So the first thing to do is to go ahead and open it up, and I'm looking for the seam here because I don't want this lump in here. So I'm going to open it up along this side. I don't want that lump in the spine of my journal where those two come through. So I'm going to go ahead and deconstruct the box and then cut it down. And if you are a journal maker, hopefully this is just an easy tutorial. If you're brand new, I'm hoping that you pick something up and it encourages you to make junk journals. So let's see. I'm going to want to use this as my spine, and then this is my book. So let me get all of this off. I am going to cut off this edge here. I'll cut off this edge here. I'm going to cut off these bottom tabs. Don't plan on keeping those. Some people like to use them to make like a reinforced or a sturdy kind of a pocket, but I don't, so I'm going to go ahead and remove those, especially with that cutout there. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I just like the idea of it, so we're going to leave it. This is really sturdy. Okay. So this is what I've got. And I do have this little bit of tape and glue. So what I'm going to do is take some wax paper under this. I don't want to scratch up my cutting mat. I'm going to take some, it's probably a medium grit sandpaper, but I've got, I usually use a low grit sandpaper, but I'm out and I haven't picked up more. So I raided my husband's garage and he had some medium grit. So that's what we're going to use for today. Sorry for the noise. I'm just going to kind of rub this off, make it a little smoother. And I do recommend that when you do this, that you use a low grit sandpaper to do this kind of thing with. And let's see. I think that's good enough. I can't really feel the tape anymore, or that glue. It's just that this particular box has this shiny surface, and I really want my paper that I'm going to put on the cover to adhere nice and good. So I'm going to give it some grit to hold on to. And I'm going to see if I can get some of this glue. Oh, that just peels right up. Nice. See, that's a testament to how slick this surface is, that the glue just peels right off. And then let me get these little insides. There we go. I think that's good enough. All right, I'm gonna move this to the side. That was just a little piece of wax paper, not wax paper, parchment paper that I had, that I was using to ink some edges, and I didn't want to get it on the cutting mat, so I used that. Okay, so as you noticed, it's backwards, right? But it's not going to matter. We're going to flip it around because this window, this is all going to be covered up. So there's not really a right or wrong way with this as far as the orientation goes. I just want that window in the front, so that's fine. We can flip it over and it's all good. Now let's see what this measures. So I have it measured at 9 by 5.5. 9 by 5.5. And let's see. I think that I am going to take off this part right here. So about 1 inch, I think, and make it 8 by 5.5. That is right about 1 inch. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me pull up have my guillotine cutter here. And that is a little bit long. So I'm going to double it up. I'm going to go to 8. Let me flip it over, see if I can get it here. This may be a little bit too much for my cutter. There we go. And it's good. And I ended up cutting off most of that part that I put on there to help reinforce. It'll be okay. So as I'm making this, I'm going to have to remember that this is upside down so that I glue it correctly. So the next thing I'm going to do is put some glue on this. Well, let me see. Let me measure out my paper that I'm going to use. So the paper for my cover is just it looks like maybe a farmer's almanac or some sort of a newspaper print type wrapping paper. And I'm going to want about 1/4 inch around the whole thing. So I think we're good. Right about here, I'm gonna give myself a little extra space. Just use my scissors to cut. Okay, that gives me a little wiggle room. I see videos all the time where people have these nice straight rulers and X-Acto blades and do a fantastic job of cutting these, and then here I am with just some scissors and I'm eyeballing it, which is my favorite thing to do. All right, I'm going to set this aside and go ahead and get this glued up. So I have this, and I think you call it Yoo-hoo or Oohoo, I'm not sure, but anyhow, I had that, and it's kind of dried out on me some, so I pulled out this Tombow mono glue stick. It is a permanent glue stick, so I'm going to see how this works for me. I'm going to put this glue stick all over. And the reason I chose that black and white kind of newsprint is because those cards that I have are very bright. There's a lot of texture on them. There's a lot of color on them. And I really want that to show through. And so I want to use kind of a very neutral type of a base for the actual journal itself, for the cover, for the pages. Let me see if I can get something to hold these down. Okay, this would have never worked if I was using art glitter glue. My glue would already be dry. Okay. Yes, upside down. I knew I was going to forget. And that's correct. Okay. I'm nervous because this is the moment of truth here, right? It's going down. And hopefully not crooked. I think it might be a little crooked. Don't do what I did and let go. Okay. I kind of want to smooth this out. That way I don't have a lot of wrinkles. Same here. It's being very forgiving, which is good because this paper is super thin. Okay. Is that correct? Yes, it is. Okay. See, I knew that window was going to throw me off. Now that I've got it covered up, though, it should be a little bit easier. I'm going to bend it to make sure that these corners bend, and then I'm going to use just an old gift card to kind of smooth it out. And these corners, these edges do bend nice. Okay, now to wrap it around, I'm going to miter the edges. Not easily. All right, I'm going to cut these straight in. Okay. That might be. I'm going to trim this down a little bit. All right. Now, my glue stick. I'm going to go ahead and fold these over. Get it nice and sticky. Flip it around and do the same on this side. I actually like this glue. If this holds, I may switch over. I like the Uhu, and I was kind of bummed when I pulled it out and it was dry. And because I'm a creature of habit, I like using what I'm used to. And I had picked these up for my kids to use when they were in the studio. And I've never actually used them, but I actually like this Tombow. That is a really nice glue stick. And I do like the Uhu as well, but it gets a little sticky. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and fold this over. If it overlaps that window a little bit, that'll be fine. I plan to cut that out. Okay, put the lid on that. And then my plan for this in the center. So there we go. It's covered. It's nice. My plan for this in the center is to cut it and to kind of fold the pieces in, if that makes sense. Well, I'm about to show you, so even if it doesn't make sense, it'll be fine. It'll make sense shortly. So this is just a small X-Acto blade. And I kind of want to just cut flaps. So that I'm able to fold up the edges. And then this window will be here, which is another reason why I chose this particular paper, because I knew that it was going to be a little bit more forgiving because it's so thin and it's already ripping. So maybe I lied. I need to make them a little smaller since it's circular. See, this is the benefit. I didn't test this out, so this is the benefits of seeing it all in real time, right? You get to see all the mistakes too, so hopefully this prevents you from making any. How many of you plan on going out and buying a box of Pantene shampoo to try this now? All right, so I've got those cut a little thinner, hoping that that helps kind of round this off. That seems to be a lot better. Make that one a little smaller. Seems to be shaping a lot better the smaller it is, the smaller those cuts are. So there we go. There is our circle. And then you can trim off these. So the one thing to think about, which I did think about, but I didn't really care, is that because I'm using print, and it's this way, when you flip it over the corners, it will be upside down. So the sides are fine, but the tops of these are going to be upside down, the words are, and I knew that that would happen, and it didn't particularly concern me. So if that type of thing doesn't bother you, then you're good. I knew it wouldn't bother me, so I didn't worry about it. This is super thin, but I think I'm going to use it anyway to go ahead and just collage, because I may be adding stuff to the insides anyway of these covers. I may be adding pockets or to the back cover. So it's not going to really matter. And there's my glue stick. So I'm going to start putting it down. I think the best thing for collage is just to put it down. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it at all. Where is... So this is the Tim Holtz collage tissue paper. It is super thin. It's great for collaging. And I like that it's adding bits of texture. And then once I'm done, I'm going to ink it up around the edges to stress a little bit. So then hopefully it'll pull in a lot more of that texture, those lines and stuff. I want to kind of give this a second to dry some before I move on to the next step. Because once I start to distress the edges and stuff, you'll definitely be able to see the where everything's coming up, where I missed stuff. And then where is my, here it is. I was going to say, please don't tell me I lost another one. So I'm going to use the bone folder here as I go in with these creases to make sure that it's going to crease well on these lines. There we go. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm pretty bummed. This is smaller than I typically use. This is a Fisker's bone folder. I've lost my bone folder. I've had it for almost 20 years. It was one of the very first tools that I ever purchased because when I first got into paper arts, it was stamping, it was card making, and I made my own card bases because I didn't know any better. I didn't know that you could buy them. It was a little while before I knew that. And so I made my own card bases. I needed a bone folder. I want to say it might have been a Stampin' Up! Because that's how I got started, was my first purchase of stamps and stamp paraphernalia was through Stampin' Up! I had gone to one of those Stampin' Up! Parties and made a purchase. And so I want to say that it was probably shortly thereafter that I bought the bone folder. And so it's sentimental. It was the perfect weight. It felt good. It was familiar in my hand. It was one of the tools that I used almost every single time I crafted my bone folder. It was larger than this. It was a little bit chipped on the end because of how many times I'd used it. But what I really liked about it is, I don't know if you can tell, this is pretty flat, and it was a little bit rounded on each of the sides, and I really liked that. And I went out and bought this one because I still needed one, but I'm super bummed. It was sentimental. I like the way it felt. I'm really bummed that it's gone. Okay, I'm going to pull out this parchment paper that I've been using, and let me flip it over. And I'm going to ink up these edges. So I am using Tim Holtz Distress Ink Walnut Stain and just one of those cheapy little blending brushes, and I'm going to just hit the edges of this book. And because I'm using my cutting mat, even though I know it'll clean up very easily, I just put down this wax paper. Sorry, I keep saying wax paper, this parchment paper, so that I can move between projects fairly easily and not have to clean up. So I'm using this parchment paper to protect my surface. And I'm really liking that. It looks good. I don't even mind if it catches. You see that line there? How it was just kind of a little bit, I don't know if it's not fully glued down or if it was just a little bit loose. Anyway, it created a line there, but to me that just adds more texture, and I like that. I'm going to get the spine a little bit here. So it looks good when it's closed. I'm trying to do this without using so much ink. I'm typically a heavy-handed inker anyway, but this paper is just soaking this I mean, like it just soaks it up. So I'm having to use quite a bit more than normal. But I'm a heavy hander anyway. I like using a lot. For me, it's a lot that goes a long way. Let me get this edge as well. I love that it's not perfect. It's still a window. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this window yet. I'm sure I'll have something displayed beautifully in the center, just not sure what that is going to be yet, but I'll figure it out. I just love the look that this gives. Distressing all of these edges. And then moment of truth, I'm going to find out going through here what I need to glue down. I guess I need to glue that down, and I need to glue this down. So what are we thinking so far? I'm liking the black and white with the distress. Like I said, I think that having this type of a neutralish background is going to let the all the ephemera that I'm going to add, those handmade cards, shine. It'll let them be the focal point. All right, looks good. Now the binding. Now I kind of went back and forth on the binding quite a bit, trying to decide what I was going to do. And I finally landed on doing some elastic binding. Let me wipe this glue off my hands. I always keep baby wipes handy so I can clean glue off my hands. And then I decided to use some elastic binding. I have never done elastic binding. I usually do like the pamphlet stitch and actually stitch it in, but I'm going to try this. So I went ahead and made myself a template. All I did was cut this to the size of the actual book. I'm sorry, the binding on this journal. And then, sorry, my big head got in the way. I went down about 1/4 of an inch. Let me mark those up real good so those are very clear. And then I marked where I wanted my eyelets to go. I'm going to do this with eyelets. I think that'll just be the simplest way to go. So I've got those in there. And then I'm going to use my Crop-A-Dile. And so the Crop-A-Dile has 2 hole punches. There's the larger one on one side and then the smaller one on the other. I'm going to use the smaller ones to go ahead and do this. And so I'm hoping I can get these centered. And last one. There we go. All right, I'm going to set these with eyelets. So my eyelets I keep in a bin, and I showed this in my craft studio tour. I have these little containers from, I don't want to tilt it. I have these little containers from Harbor Freight that stack on top of each other, and then you can actually pull the containers out from the shelving. And this is where I keep my eyelets. This is all of my eyelets. This also includes all of my little snaps too, all the flat ones, because they were gifted. So I did not purchase all of these, and they came like this. And I'm a little OCD, but I'm not that particular. I don't have time to sit around and sort those by color. So that might be driving some people crazy, but it doesn't me. I just search for them. Now, I already selected my colors, so I'm not going to make you watch me dig through that little bucket. So I selected these little guys. I can't tell really if that's a black or a dark gray, but that's the color that I selected. And now I'm going to set these. And I went ahead and I set the Crop-A-Dile. And a lot of times I use I don't really like using the crocodile in particular for setting my eyelets. I prefer to use the old school method of taking the little metal puncher and punching it out, but I figured that that would be too loud. So, wasn't going to make you watch me do that either. I'm going to just go ahead and use my crocodile. To set these. Besides, it'll just be a lot quicker for video's sake. All right, see? And they're all set, nice and snug. So there we go. We're all set. They're all in there. And I can see that that I should have flipped it over, because as you can see, basically now I can tell that one side was a lot longer, or there was a lot more space on one side than the other side, because now you can see that there's more space on this side and more space on this side. That's okay. We're going to make it work. So now that I have this laid out, I would love to add something to the binding to kind of separate it or differentiate it from the rest of the book. And I think I want to add, I've got some of this fabric washi tape, and ideally I would have added it to the binding prior to putting those eyelets, setting those eyelets in there, but I did not. So I think that I'm just going to add it this way, kind of after the fact here. And I think that that will work. So let's see, I kind of want to get a little bit of a torn edge effect with this. Okay. Because it is fabric. And this is from the 49 and Market collection. And I'm not sure which one. Let's see. It is from it's repositionable fabric tape assortment 4 rolls, Plum Grove 49 and Market collection. So there's some really pretty ones in here. But I like this nice wide one. And then I'm just snipping it because I kind of want it to have a little bit of the frayed edge. So I'm going to just do some little cuts and then rip it, and then it doesn't have like just a completely straight edge. And I think I'm going to, I don't really want this to be like super even or anything, but let's make sure that that still bends well. Yeah, it still bends well. I think I'm going to just do this kind of like in layers. And if they overlap some, then they do. But I think that this will be, I like these colors. They're still really pretty, but still muted. And it'll add a little bit more interest to the spine. So right about there. What do we think? I'm liking that. I'm liking it. And I don't want to wrap it around. So let me see if I can cut this out. I'm trying to do this without getting my big head in the way here. Or without cutting into my book. It's not really working. I guess I could cut it down and wrap it. A little bit of a torn edge there. I just had to have this cut out in the center, right? Had to make it happen. We'll get it figured out, though. We will get it figured out. Just straighten that back out. And then let me see if I can remove a little bit more of this. Sorry, guys. This is what happens when it's completely unscripted. We're not planned here. So you are here for the planning and execution all at the same time. Lucky you. And this is how you create on the fly. But honestly, with a little bit of planning, I'm thinking, you know, 2 hours and you can have a completed journal. Really. Okay. Now I've cut my elastic. I'm going to go ahead and tie those on now that I've got the tape on there. I want to pull it tight, but I don't want to bend the board. And tying elastic is harder than it looks. Wow. Or I am just really unskilled. Okay, so this is the first time I've used this method, so bear with me. There we go. Nice. And now you can really see how off it is. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What was I doing? So ideally, like I was saying, I would have flipped it. So once I made my marks this way, I would have kept it the same and done it this way from the back side, and then they would have lined up perfectly. Also, you could measure it correctly. And this is why I tell you that I am an eyeballing pro, because anytime I get the ruler out and try to measure things, my math fails me, and this happens. This happens. But we're going to go with Happy Little Accident. It's a Bob Ross reference. It's a happy little accident, and it just lends to the authenticity of the homemade journal here. Very believably homemade. I only cut 3 strings for some reason. So let me cut my 4th. I think I originally only planned 4 signatures and then realized that this that the binding was going to be, or that the spine was going to be quite a bit larger. So I thought that I could comfortably fit 4. No. Like I said, you want to pull them tight, but you don't want to bend the book. You want to be able to lift them up and comfortably not tie them to other elastic pieces. You want to lift them up and to be able to comfortably place your signatures underneath. You don't want them to be too loose, but you don't want them to be too tight either. All right, there we go. So, not sure if I'm going to end up having to make any adjustments to those, so I'm going to leave these strings as they are right now, just in case. And that is it. That's what it looks like from the back. This is what it looks like on the front. So we have our journal cover. I am going to pull together some papers for signatures, and I'm also going to start pulling together my cards and making ephemera. And in part 2, we'll decorate the treasure journal. And I'll probably end up doing something to pull these together. Add a little something there. And I think then it'll be maybe a little bit less noticeable that it's so off. But anyhow, I'm liking it so far. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you feel inspired to try creating your own junk journal. You can literally make it out of anything. Don't let it intimidate you. I obviously didn't. Just go in there and do it. Just start creating, and you'll improve over time. And you're even more better off than me if you can measure correctly. Anyhow, if you'd like to see part 2 of this video, please hit the like and subscribe button so that you'll be notified of the next video coming out probably in a day or two. I will see you soon. Bye.